Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bears on Tap, a podcast about the Chicago Bears presented to you by On Tap Sportsnet. I'm your host, Brandon Suarez. You can follow me on Twitter at BDon300, and you can follow my co-host, Quinn, at BuckHisStats. Week 2 of the offseason, still speculation season, but we got more playoff football on the horizon. We're talking a little bit more Bears. Quinn, how you doing, my guy?
I'm doing great, man. I'm knee-deep in draft prospects, getting ready for the Senior Bowl next week, and just enjoying it, loving every minute. Watched Anthony Richardson for the first time today of like actual all-22, and whew, I think I had in my notes he's the beefed up version of Rex Grossman, I think.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, screw it, I'm going deep constantly and just not caring. But, like, he can run and is massive. So, like the roided out Rex Grossman.
So, not to promote, like, an offshore Caribbean book, but I saw his draft number on Bovada at 16.5. And I love Anthony Richardson. Great dude. Won me a couple bets, but I will be respectfully hammering the over. Like, he is not getting picked in the top 16. Ain't no way, boy.
I don't know, man. I really don't.
In the quarterback hungry league, but I don't know.
Yeah.
AR-15, he's already got the nickname worked out. Kind of like, if you remember, Andre Kirilenko, he was AK-47, so he already has a pretty cool nickname. And a cannon for an arm. He can make plays with his legs, but I don't know, man.
Dude, there's some moments on tape where you're just like, if he could just get this right, it'd be amazing. Amazing. If he'd just accept a check down every now and then, he'd be pretty dang good.
I feel like there's a lot of people that can be said about. But for us right now, it's the dormant season. Obviously, can't sign anybody, can't really do anything. Just a bunch of cool pictures and quotes from our Bears on Instagram from their season. But right now, we're looking at quite a few teams in the playoffs right now, right? So, like, I'm going to use this as an example. Look at the Bengals. Look at the Eagles. Look at the 49ers. And, well, you can't – even the Chiefs. I mean, they drafted Mahomes in 17. He's obviously gotten $500 billion 3 times over. But if you look at those other 3 teams, right, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, are all on rookie deals. Does that give you a little bit more confidence thinking like, okay, we're not as far away as people may think, knowing like if we can just pick the right players, which is something that Bears GMs and personnel scouts have not been able to do over the course of time, that we could maybe have like a nice playoff team in a couple of years' time?
Yeah, I mean, what was the year the 49ers went to the Super Bowl? Was that 2019 or 2020?
I want to say that was 19 because that was like right before the world shut down. That was like the last major sporting event.
You know what their record was in 2018?
What was it, like 6-10?
4-12.
Ooh.
I mean, and they dealt with a lot of injuries. Like their roster probably wasn't near as bare as the Bears it was, but still, like the Bears should be a playoff team next year is the way I see it. Maybe, I mean, in our division, I definitely think you can start saying division, but like even being more skeptical, wild card. Like if Ryan Poles has not built a team by this time next year that did not at least make a wild card spot, I'm worried about where the front office is. And I think the new president of team operations would be too.
Yeah, or at least like if we, and I don't want to be the negative guy, but if we're not a wild card team, but like keep us on the graphic past Thanksgiving, buddy.
Yeah,
like, give me a little bit of hope coming down the stretch and leave it up to the players. But I think that the amount of capital is like, we're just rich right now. We are just football rich. We have the money in draft picks. We're going to get more draft picks when we end up trading the number 1 pick. I really just don't see a scenario where, at the very least, like I think we've talked about this a lot on our off air, just like before we start the show and after, you're going to get an opportunity to see the profile of player that Ryan Poles likes. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, you can't really sit back and blame anybody but Ryan Poles because he stripped the roster down to its studs. You got rid of all the best players on defense. I can't really say we really had good or great players that we got rid of on offense because the offense wasn't that great. But Eberflus comes in, implements his offense, and it looks a lot better than it has in years past. The main focus really right now is you have to rebuild the defense and the offensive line. And then obviously you need skill position players. But just the sheer number of it worries me. But seeing these other teams be able to turn it around just like this with quarterbacks that we saw do similar things, maybe not Brock Purdy to what Justin Fields did in college. Brock Purdy was a great college quarterback, never a Justin Fields. But it leaves me just a little bit more confident that, hey, the turnaround isn't going to be as long as people may anticipate.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm just like, this just sparked my interest now. So I'm like, I looked it up. 2018 49ers. I mean, they did have more talent than the Bears this past year. Like, they had Joe Staley on the offensive line, he's not a Hall of Famer. They had rookie Mike McGlinchey, who's solid. They had rookie George Kittle, who hadn't done anything yet. Like, he wasn't really even a name yet. But the next year in 2019, he blew up. And outside of that on offense, they were piecemeal, man. Like, they were not much. And on defense, they had DeForest Buckner, who they traded away for a first round pick, which definitely helped them. Eric Armstead, who's still there and doing well, and Fred Warner. So, and outside of that, I mean, they were kind of missing a lot of names too. They had some decent guys, but that was really all they were working with, those 6 guys, and Jimmy G, obviously, because he was already there. But then you go to the next year.
The Crimson Chin Jimmy G.
Yeah. You go to the next year and you look at it. I mean, they drafted Nick Bosa number 2 overall. They drafted Deebo Samuel at number 36. They drafted Dre Greenwald in the 5th round. And between that and some of their free agent signings, like who'd they bring in? If Mostert blew up that year. And honestly, I don't know that they signed a whole lot of guys. Even their guys just kind of stepped up, and their coach was
their guys just became Shanahan.
Yeah, Jimmy Ward came back from injury.
The pride and joy, baby. The pride and joy of DeKalb, Illinois.
And they just got healthy, but like Bosa and Deebo and a few other things falling right got them to the Super Bowl, and Jimmy G staying healthy, or not staying healthy, being there for the full year.
Yeah.
But
now they got Purdy in there, and I mean, he's looked good. So I just thought it was something that was worth mentioning, seeing as 3 of the 4 teams that are left in the playoffs right now are all teams with a guy on a rookie deal. I don't know if Trey Lance would have gotten the Niners here. I have a feeling he would have gotten them at least very close. I think that's just a team that is built the proper way. But for us, going into team building, so we do have a question. So Scott from Iowa, shout out Ames, Iowa, shout out Brock Purdy, says, my 2 biggest questions: what free agents are we signing, and how many times do the Bears trade back with the number 1 overall pick? So free agent wise, just name. All right, so I think maybe 1 offensive lineman, 1 receiver, and since defense is so broad, just give me your best dude on that side of the ball. Because I can't make you sit here and give me like a dude at the first level, second level, and third level of the defense,
Yeah. I really think they're gonna, on offense, Caleb McGarry's the guy I'm most interested in, or on offensive line. I just think he's a good all-around player and probably the best available. Him or Jawan Taylor. I think it's Jawan Taylor with Jacksonville at right tackle. You also have Mike McGlinchey, who is a really good run blocker. I have some questions about his pass blocking. He's always just been okay there. And if you're going to be paying one of these guys money, you'd like to have the higher ceiling at least. But McGlinchey would still be, a net positive for this offensive line. Absolutely. At receiver, I mean, you're talking Jacoby Myers. That's really about it. It's Jacoby and Juju. Those are the 2 main receivers, and I think Juju's going to end up back in KC. So,
yeah.
Outside of that, you're talking mostly depth guys. On defense, we all know Deron Payne. That's a clear target unless Washington franchise tags him, which they might. But outside of that, I mean, Bobby Okereke from Indy, clear. I mean, he's
Eberflus's guy. Yeah, Eberflus's guy.
And then TJ Edwards, the local kid playing for Philly right now, is another guy to watch. Grew up in Lake Villa and diehard Bears fan. Grew up as a diehard Bears fan, and I think it's a match made in heaven. I mean, actually, I don't know if I guess his play style might fit. I haven't thought that much about that, to be honest. I
You're just
like the
like, dude,
story.
he played with Sanborn. He's a Bears fan through and
Yeah.
through. He's gonna come to Chicago after this season. But
Yeah. And then Zach Allen's a guy I really like too. From Arizona, interior defender. I think he's a guy who, if you don't get paid, you might consider looking at as a 3-tech. Obviously, a lot of that depends on what you believe you're going to do in the draft too. Like, if you really believe that you're going to be where you want to be and you want to take Jalen Carter, you might not go spend on a 3-tech,
well,
but we'll see.
At this point, we're just throwing darts at a dartboard. We'll have plenty of episodes to where there will be clips of every guy that we said the Bears maybe should take. And eventually we'll be right. So
I'll give you a spicy name.
Oh,
Jadeveon Clowney.
Dude, I wouldn't hate it. And he's done. He's done in Cleveland, right? He
is the 1-year deal king of the NFL right now. He's just been like going a mercenary 1-year deal to 1-year deal.
He's a hired gun. He's a one-hit wonder, bro.
Yeah.
Because he was good at South Carolina, but like that hit catapult. That was the beginning of the era where football got onto social media and went viral.
Yeah.
That play was the beginning of it.
Oh yeah.
And now it's like a coach will tweet happy birthday to one of his players, and there will be 57,000 dudes like, hey, coach, here's my highlight tape. I got 3.6 GPA. Can you sign me to a national letter of intent? And it's just like, yo. But I don't know.
All you need, man, is for that one clip. If it's fire enough. One last guy, a center, Ethan Pochik. He was in Cleveland this last year. Just had a really nice year for them after being so a few years before. And they run it.
Sounds like a good center name.
Yeah, I think that's how you announce it. How you say it? Pochik.
Poach man.
But he's a guy who's 6'6" at center. He's longer than most centers, but he's worked in that wide zone scheme. So, and that's probably at that type of height. That's probably where he needs to be.
Yeah. Did you mention Hargrave on the Eagles?
I did not yet, because I thought we were going to talk about the playoff teams specifically.
The playoff teams later. Okay, yeah, so we'll talk about that later. So in my various internet searchings on Twitter this afternoon, I saw a post today that stated that the Washington Commanders should essentially just trade us Deron Payne for Justin Fields. I would like your initial thoughts on this great, just fairly even trade on both sides.
Yeah, that's not happening. I mean,
whatever they got out there in the nation's capital, I need some of that. Because when I'd
even
logged
say
onto Twitter and saw that, I was like, "What the fuck is going on, dude?"
I would even say it might be more likely that the Bears would. So, in order for that to happen, Washington has to franchise tag him, right?
Yeah.
I would say it's more likely that the Bears sign Payne off the franchise tag, meaning they have to give up 2 first-round picks, than it is they trade Justin Fields for him straight up.
It's just like I'm sorry, I'm like mid-yawn. It's just like some of the shit that you see that people like, and the man had a photo edit to match the tweet. It wasn't just a tweet to air.
It was well thought out.
It was a tweet with a photographic edit that he had to sit down for several minutes to make. And then he put it out into the Twitter sphere. So I'm just like, bruh.
At this point, it's just a dude trolling Bears fans because he knows he's going to get clicks out of it.
We're not trading Justin Fields. That's my guy. And also, too, as much as you may not like it, as much as he may not have produced, he's our receiver for the next year to figure out if we can sign him to a long-year deal. Cut the Chase Claypool discourse off. The 32nd pick is gone. We're not getting that shit back. We have Chase Claypool. Okay? That's it. It is what it is. Can we get some production out of him? I want to see it more than anyone. My favorite fucking receiver from Notre Dame. And I watch Golden Tate play. And I watch Jeff Samardzija play. And I watch all these different dudes. Maurice Stovall. All these guys play at Notre Dame. Chase Claypool was him. Cole Kmet was him there. When we got Cole Kmet, he kind of stunk. Cole Kmet had 7 touchdowns last year. I'm not saying Chase Claypool is going to get 7, but I guarantee you, if you put whatever receiver is picked in that spot Say, ironically, there's a receiver picked at 32. Give me his stats next to Chase Claypool's next year. I promise you Claypool will do better.
I think it's pretty like clear to me. I feel like as I've looked at guys in contract years at the wide receiver position, they tend to do pretty damn well in their contract years.
Yeah.
I mean, they tend to just like there's a bit more of a focus on like doing whatever I need to do to win for a lot of these guys. I mean, not just receiver, for a lot of different players to go get that bag. I can't blame them. I mean, I'd be doing the same thing. Like it's, the off season before my contract's up, I might be like not quite as dedicated to it as the off season where I'm leaving tens, 20s, 30s of millions of dollars on the table if I'm not getting my all this offseason. You bet your ass I'm getting my all this offseason.
Well, I think too, couple things. Justin Fields it's very well known that in the offseason, Justin Fields trains with his receivers. He did it at Ohio State. He does it with the Bears. I would assume that Chase Claypool would be more than willing to go to wherever the location is to train with his quarterback to get on the right page. Two, Claypool has, like, I want to say this isn't an actual, like, this is from what I saw. It's probably a little different with this year worked into it. But in his first 3 seasons, his drop rate was 5%. Not like high. You know what I'm saying? Not overwhelmingly high. He has the big playability. He has relatively good hands, and he has the athleticism. He went through a trade in the middle of the season last season, and in addition to going through the trade, he lost one of his teammates at the beginning of the season last year. I think a lot of people forget that about Chase Claypool. Not saying that adversely affected the way he performed, but it's just a guy that dealt with so many moving parts, and then he gets thrown into an offense where he's hurt. He's not really the main guy, which you kind of, with a trade like that, think that when you're coming in, we all thought he's going to be the main guy. He probably thought he was going to be the main guy, and he really didn't get worked in. I think all things considered, just expect a different Chase Claypool next year. I'm not saying he's going to be 100 catches, 1,200, 1,600 yards, but it wouldn't be too far-fetched to see him get 800, 900, 1,000 yards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's perfectly reasonable. I mean, he did it his first 2 years in the league, and
exactly. So
last year was kind of the anomaly for him.
I'm just tired of seeing the discourse like we fucking traded away the Lucky Charms for Chase Claypool, and he is shit. And it's just it's too early to tell.
Like, there's nothing to do about it. Like, what's done is done. Like, it sucks, and it's a black eye on Poles' report so far, that he gave up the number 32 overall pick for a guy who probably wasn't worth it.
That might have been the first time. Might have been the first time he woke up before noon. So maybe just don't wake up before noon anymore, Nine Poles.
Yeah, but I mean, we are where we are. Hope for the best for Claypool, and hope that it works out.
Yeah, but I think that you get Mooney back next year. Kmet is turning into a dude. Like, Kmet will be drafted in fantasy next year. I just think that
as long as Chase Claypool's on the roster.
Yeah, no, they're good friends. They are good friends. But I think that a lot of the stuff that we see this time of the year on Twitter, via the blogs, via articles, and sometimes even on the news, or not news, but just like TV, like Bears Talk on TV, is just kind of bullshit. And I just kind of put my head down and, like, get me to pro days, get me to where I can see tangible evidence of this is the guy I want to draft, and then let's ride from there. Because at this point, right now, all we can do is watch film. We can watch the remaining games of players that we know are low on their, they don't have a new year on their contract that maybe we'd like to see. But it's one of those things where it's just like there's so much that where do you start?
Yeah, I mean, on that topic, like you said, watching the guys who we know are upcoming free agents still playing, there's quite a few, like maybe 12, 13 upcoming free agents that are noteworthy on these 4 teams that we're going to watch Sunday.
Yeah, so if you want to get into that list of some of the most, you already talked about one of them in Edwards.
Yeah, I already talked a little on TJ Edwards. Javon Hargrave is the top guy out here. He's about to turn 30 years old, 3 technique, defensive line for Philly, plays in a deep rotation there in Philly. They're constantly rotating that line in and out to keep him fresh, and he has performed. I mean, the last 3 years, it's him, Aaron Donald, and Chris Jones who have the highest pass rush win rate in the league.
Yeah.
He has constantly performed there in Philly. I'm not sure. I feel like he must have been older when he got drafted. He must have been like 25 when he got drafted, because I was surprised to see he's already 30. But so the mileage might be a little lower on him too, though. And he would be a great fit in this defense as that one gap penetrator that you hear about, and when you say one gap penetrator, it's like, that sounds cool, but what does it mean? So in Eberflus's system, in most 3-4s, the D linemen have two gap responsibility. Means when they have a blocker they're holding off them against the run, they're playing the gap to the right and the gap to their left. They're responsible for both.
And Javon Hargrave is quite literally just throwing a man when he picks what side he wants to go.
And like when you hear about, like, I'm sure everyone heard it in like Pop Warner or high school, like a coach yelling at a D lineman for just shooting the gap and being like, you can't do that. You're just guessing. Stop shooting the gap because you're getting us in trouble. That's because they had two gap responsibility. But in Eberflus's system, in a lot of 4-3s, 4 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, or really 2 linebackers in today's day and age, you're talking about a one gap system where these guys don't have to gain control of the blocker and wait to see which side they need to go. They can just go. They can just penetrate that gap, get right in there and attack. And that's what Hargrave would really excel at in this system, I think.
So I've seen a lot of Hargrave, but I do have a tinfoil hat, and I hope that Brian can give me a tinfoil hat when he goes back and edits through this. But there's a team in the NFL that very notably has, over the last few seasons, traded away their entire draft arsenal, right? But this team is also a star-studded team that may need to move on from a couple of these pieces. What would you think about a potential trade for Aaron Donald?
Oh, man.
Because, bro, he don't want to be in LA anymore. He doesn't.
I think he.
What do you think it would? All right. What do you think it would garner? What do you think it would garner? Because
I would need a lot of assurances that he has more than 1 year left before.
And he still wants to play football. Yeah. But I was sitting
there
thinking about it
because he's going to be costly, and just like, what are you trading? Like, the Bears window has not even opened yet.
Yeah.
It might open next year, but like, if you're trading for 2 years of him, that window better damn well be open.
Yo, we're unloading the farm on everyone. I don't know, maybe not Donald. Maybe you try to kick the tires on like a little Jalen Ramsey. Actually.
Now that's a guy who I could get a little more interested in. 28 years old.
Because you got more time with him, and I think that who was it? Gordon played in the slot a little bit in college, right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? Could you imagine they somehow make a move? Like, this is just me spitballing, me tinfoil hat right now, but there are trades that could be made, and maybe the Rams, with Stafford being half in the casket, are like, fuck, dude, maybe we like one of these guys. Maybe we want him to be our quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
you're right. They might have a fire sale over there in LA. They might have to.
Well, maybe we can get them for cheaper than what I'm saying, but I'm thinking like maybe they just kind of blow it up because they saw what they had this year. They can't really do much money-wise and draft-wise because they don't have draft picks.
They're up the river. They only have like 20-something player. I think it's 26 players under contract, and half those players are over 30. Like, they are not in a good spot.
Sean McVay was ready to retire. They're down so bad. You know what I'm saying? He was ready to just take the broadcast booth. He's like, I got my Super Bowl. I just think that there may be a couple players. We did business with them. Well, we didn't really necessarily do business with them. We just kind of gave them Allen Robinson. But we've done business with them in the past. You know what I'm saying? So I could see it. But, yeah, dude, I am looking at this season how when I log into Madden and it's free agency season, and I'm just like, I don't care who or how or why, I am signing this is BPA season, best player available. You sign the best player available at every position that you possibly can get. One, because we have the money to do it. And two, you got the amount of draft picks, or you will have more draft picks after the trade.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if they have any guys who are coming up for contract extensions like in the next year or so, because they're going to have a hard time fitting it into the salary cap. And like if there's a guy who they need to pay, and they might be looking to unload them for picks, but it's not loading, so I'll just forget it. It's just something to think about. But moving on down the list, I already talked a little on McGlinchey. One that's really interesting to me is Orlando Brown Jr.
From the Ravens.
And everyone's gonna tell me he's not a scheme fit. Like, it's not gonna happen. But Ryan Poles was in the front office that traded for him. And he was lauded as the guy who overhauled the Chiefs' offensive line in one offseason, right? That was Poles, like, his selling card, if anything. It was one of the things that was really shouted loudly from the mountaintops when he got hired here. Which, if that's completely true, tells me that Ryan Poles really likes Orlando Brown Jr. because they gave 2 first-round picks for him. And he's been franchise tagged there. And he's a free agent. I mean, Poles clearly knows what the guy is, what he'd have in him. He's a known commodity at that point. He is a guy who can play left and right tackle and has played in multiple schemes. Now, I mean, personally, I don't think he's a great offensive tackle, but he's rock solid. You know, he's going to keep doing his job. He doesn't miss a lot of games, and he's been exactly what he's expected to be every year he's been in the NFL, except his rookie year when he was much more than he was expected to be. Now, maybe, I don't know if they can tag him again or not. I'm not even sure what the status is, like where they're at with him, but he's a really interesting name to me just because of that Poles connection to him.
Yeah.
And then moving on down, Isaac Samalo. I think that's how you pronounce it, Samalo. Eagles offensive guard. I really like this guy. He's just a sound football player, and I'm not sure what the contract's going to look like for him, but he does his job, and he does his job well. He's been a part of that Eagles offensive line that has been rock solid for, last decade, something like that. And 29 years old, so a little older, but I mean, that's what you're getting in free agency though, right? You're getting guys 27, 28 plus. But another interesting connection here with him is Ian Cunningham. Ian Cunningham, the Bears assistant president or whatever his role title is. He's Ryan Poles' right hand man.
I would say whatever his title is, it's not going to be his title for much longer because he is like a hot commodity around NFL circles for the next GM job.
Yeah, but again, we're talking about a guy who has really intimate knowledge of that Philly roster, the players on that Philly team, and a guy who also got credit for his scouting, his work of the offensive line when he was in Philly. So offensive line is something that, again, Cunningham knows and could be something that he's looking for a familiar face on, looking for a known commodity. And there is no more known commodity than a guy who you brought in to the team that you were with at the time and have seen thrive there. So I really think the Bears might be in on either of those two. And then looking down here, one more guy I want to touch on is Charles Omenihu, edge rusher out of Houston, 25 years old, been largely a rotational guy in his career. I'm not sure if he was with, I want to say he was with San Fran before getting to Houston. He's bounced around a little bit, or maybe he's with San Fran now. No, he's in San Fran now. Oh, wait, I think he just got hurt, actually.
Omenihu?
Yeah. He's in San Fran now. He started out with Houston. That's right. 280 pounds, 6'5", only 25 years old, though. And he really had a breakout year this year in San Fran, playing on that defensive line. So I
Well,
mean,
now listen here. You said only 25 years old. I know another
yeah,
guy who's 25 years old who's the oldest person on the Bears.
yeah, yeah,
I mean to
that
interrupt.
guy.
Fucking
Um,
Bayless.
yeah, but Menahu, I mean, if you're paying him a market contract, you're probably overpaying just because he's not playing across from Nick Bosa anymore. He's not playing next to Eric Armstead anymore, but he's still a quality football player. And, you go grab a Jalen Carter or Tyree Wilson in the draft. Maybe he is playing next to Eric Armstead, like
Yeah.
he could become a quality guy really quick, especially if you go look at his film. And I haven't done this yet, but if you look at his film and feel like something really clicked for him this year more than it was just like pressure being taken off him, it might be a bet that you want to make of, we'll pay this guy a little more. We can get out of it when we need to, but like it's a chance we're taking. That's what we're going to have to see the Bears do this year. They're going to need to front load some contracts because I think the salary cap number for next year keeps going up and it keeps pushing up the amount of money they need to spend this offseason. They're up above 150 million cash they need to spend this offseason now.
Hey, that's not a problem that we don't want them to have. Like they gotta spend the money. They can't bring it home with them. Can't take it with you. Have to spend it this offseason. Ryan Poles, you cheap bastard. The man signed like Dante Pettis and Equinemius St. Brown and was like, yo, this is about to be the most glorious tank of all time, bro. Just watch me work. I'll give the credit to him because we were the worst in the NFL, but
yeah,
I mean, a lot of pain along the way, my guy.
Let me say this clearly. The Bears are going to sign some bad contracts this offseason. Yeah. You just need the good to outweigh the bad. Like when you need to spend this much money, there are not enough quality free agents out there for you to make it work. Yeah. Especially when you're a team coming off a 3-win season that some of the top guys might not be as interested in.
To put it in like real life terms, like this is the dating pool after people have gotten divorced. It's just gone down a little bit in quality.
Well, I think the Jaguars last year are a great example.
They did well.
They did well, but they regret a few of those contracts. Zay Jones has been good for them. Christian Kirk has really been good. Think about how much they had to overpay those two guys to get them. And I think they had a similar issue last year where they had to spend a bunch of cash just to get in compliance with the CBA. That's where the Bears are right now. Now, they paid a linebacker out of Atlanta, Aluakon, and they paid a Fadikasi, a defensive tackle from the Jets. Those two signings haven't been as good for them, but they're under big contracts and they still made the playoffs and they're still looking like a good team going into the future.
Look at Jacksonville, dude. They're fucking laughing stock every year. Bottom of the barrel NFL franchise. You get the quarterback in, you get the coach in, you get a couple of free agents and some draft picks, guys like ETN. Like, dude, they had a James Robinson, Joey's guy from Rockford, steal in the draft.
Yeah.
Told him to fuck off because they got I almost said, is it Trevor or Travis? I always get him mixed because now his brother plays at Florida. But they're literally the Clemson Jaguars. They are what we are with Notre Dame, except all their players are from Clemson instead of Notre Dame. I was looking at it last week when they were on NBC, and it's just like Trevor Lawrence, Clemson, Travis Etienne, Clemson, and I'm just like, damn, bro, like they really all went to fucking Clemson.
Let's do that with Georgia.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I know for most of our life, it's, after the heyday of seeing like the USC, the U teams and all that, it's really been just a lot of Bama with like Ohio State and LSU and now Georgia sprinkled in there. I think this era of dominance that you're about to see from Georgia is going to be up there with the Bamas, up there with the Miamis of the 80s and the early 2000s. Like they're going undefeated again this year. Their schedule is cake.
So here's how we achieve this. First round, Jalen Carter. Second round,
Keely Ringo.
If he's there, yeah, maybe him or Darnell Washington. One of those two would be the second round guy.
Darnell Washington's like the 6'9" dude, right?
Third round, Chris Smith. I'm just looking at PFF's big board right Fourth round, Cedric Van Pran. So now we added interior D line, tight end or corner, one of the two, safety, and center. And then in the fourth round, why not? Let's go grab Kenny McIntosh, get a halfback.
Oh, that's their back. Yeah, dude, their back's a dog.
Yeah. And then for kicks, let's add in their kicker, Jake Podlesny, in the seventh.
Yeah,
So now we're talking. I mean, before you know it, Justin Fields is gonna have to start saying Georgia in the intros because
Justin Fields.
It's gonna be QB Georgia, halfback Georgia,
dude,
center Georgia, D line Georgia.
Sign Kirby to call plays, dude.
Yeah, there you go on defense. I don't know if I want his offense.
Sign Kirby to do two things: call the plays on defense and use the timeouts. Be the timeout guy.
Have you ever watched their offense? It's like it's all just swing screens and tunnel screens. Like that's all they do.
No, and they just bully people. Yeah, they just
There's like we're bigger, faster, stronger. We don't need scheme.
I did see a video though earlier. So Steve Smith, that used to play for the Panthers, that terrorized us in the NFL playoffs. Oh, he works for Underdog Fantasy now, and he does a podcast just talking regular NFL stuff week in and week out. And he basically called out the scouts for I guess you would say laziness, right? Because it's like you look at a guy like Brock Purdy, right? I think he was like 31-3 in college. He won the Big 12, I'm almost positive, or at least went to the Big 12 championship before. Like, had a very decorated college career. No reason why a guy like that should slip to 256. And I think that, while it has been great to see a lot of small school guys get opportunities in recent years, I still think that there's a lot left to be desired in college football, to where you don't always have to go with the guy from the big school, but sometimes it's a safe bet.
Yeah. Man, Brock Purdy just never got, like, it was all that freshman year, that magical, like, freshman year. And then it was just all down, like, or sophomore year, I guess, 2019. And it was like, he just never got back up to there. He just went downhill from there.
I remember we beat the absolute brakes off Iowa State in the bowl game. They played us in like the Camping World Bowl or something.
He had that monster year, and then everyone like was all about him. Like, he was being talked about as a top 5 pick. And then he laid an egg the next 2 years. I don't know Iowa State football well enough to tell you why that happened, but I remember his name being big, and then it wasn't. I remember the same thing with Tanner Morgan in Minnesota. Tanner Morgan and Brock Purdy had the same exact career arc.
Spencer Rattler too, bro.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if he ever had the peak, but
I don't know.
Had the hype.
A very interesting time where I think two things. I know I can't be hurt this time of the year, right? Can't sign anyone we don't like, can't draft anyone we don't like, and we most importantly can't lose football games. But I think that to take what a GM said this week about a certain team, or I know you know what I'm talking about. How I think it's.
I was laughing at Scott's comment.
Yeah. Oh, Scott's comment. He never beat Iowa. But no, Brandon Beane from the Bills said that I don't ever want to be in the position to where I have to draft a Jamar Chase. First of all, double entendre, you were in that position. That's how you got most of your team. But second of all, we're in that position right now. Are we going to make the right picks when we get to the draft? Are we going to drop too far out of the top 10 to where maybe the guy that we get isn't going to be as big of an impact? These are all things that they're either driving Ryan Poles crazy, or Ryan Poles is salivating at the thought. Like, if they thought me somehow falling ass backwards into the first pick was my best work, just wait until they see what I do with this capital.
See, to me, 7 is the sweet spot of how far you can drop.
Okay, 7.
Like, because there are 7 players that I either love or am confident will be gone by 7. And that's so just counting on the order of my big board here. Bryce Young should be gone by 7. Jalen Carter, I definitely want on the Chicago Bears. Will Levis should probably be gone by 7, I think.
Disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would, but like someone seems like they're going to. Will Anderson be a great pick for the Bears. CJ Stroud should be gone by 7. Tyree Wilson, I would absolutely love to have on the Bears. That guy is like, he's like Kevin Durant playing football plus 100 pounds. Like, he's just so long, dude. He has like a 7'2" wingspan. Like, it's ludicrous. You try to run the read option on that. Just try. He's going to catch you. Like, and then Paris Johnson Jr. I would love to have Paris Johnson Jr. on this team. Oh, yeah.
The tackle from Ohio State.
Outside of Tyree Wilson and Jalen Carter, he's probably my favorite player in this draft.
Yeah, and let it be known for the record, take Pete Skorowski off both our big boards. He's a Packers fan. We don't want him.
Oh, yeah. His dad's in the Packers Hall of Fame. Or his grandpa.
Doesn't matter.
Won rings up there with that coach, Lombardi.
He's got to be a stock owner.
It's okay. He's a T-Rex anyways. He's going to get overdrafted. He's a guard.
Well, I'm going to have to blur that out for my brother, the biggest Northwestern fan.
Hey, he is going to be a great guard in the NFL. I have no doubt about that.
You think he's better than Slater will be?
Well, Slater can play tackle, so.
Well, I'm just speaking from Northwestern. Northwestern doesn't put out back-to-back years where they have a top.
Yeah.
Prospect.
Can he? I guess. A guard just isn't as valuable as tackle in my mind, so it's hard to say that. Like, he doesn't get in front of blocks as well as Slater did. And Slater is so good with his hands, and I see Skoronski hitting outside with his hands too often. He replaces them and he fixes it quickly, but it's still not as precise as what Slater does. And there are just so many plays when I watch Skoronski's tape that I feel like I'm watching a guard trying to play tackle.
So did you see this one that Scott said right here in the chat?
Oh, yeah.
Makes sense. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
And Monty was a workhorse in college, dude. Like an absolute workhorse.
But when did he get the kid who's with the Jets now? The running back.
Breece
yeah.
Hall.
When did Breece Hall come in though?
Yeah, because he always had playmakers. He had this tight end too, Charlie Kolar, I think his name was. That was a dog for him. He did have good, and then too, he was under a great coach.
Did he have Alan Lazard there too for a year?
He may have. Not 100.
That might have been the biggest difference.
Alan Lazard, I don't think we're gonna have to worry about that guy for too much longer. But
hey, it might be a Bear.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I think we touched on everything. Like I said at the top of the show, it's a weird time. I guess the final thing we'll go over is, we talked enough about the guys on their teams that we want. We talked about how we want to model the Bears after them. Who do you think is going to win this weekend's playoff matchups? There's only 3 games left.
The Chiefs and the Eagles.
Wait, I thought you said Bengals.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Bengals. I meant Bengals.
I was like, damn, bro. I was like,
Excuse
damn,
me.
bro. I thought you switched up on me. All right. I'm going Bengals, and I'm going to go 49ers. I don't know why, but many moons ago when Brock Purdy first appeared on television playing football, my roommate at the time, Ethan, former co-host of this show, was like, dude, this Brock Purdy guy, he's him. Before him was a thing. He didn't actually say that, but I like teased Iowa State because that's when I was just like a little bitch, and I was like, I don't like laying 9.5 points, dude, right? They got outrighted at the crib at home, and I have hated Brock Purdy since. And I have chased after this man, and I'll win like some -110ers, some spreads, whatever. Taking Mr. Irrelevant plus money this weekend. And yeah, Joe Burrow, you don't have to say anything.
Yeah, my muscle memory went straight to Chiefs just because I'm a Pat Mahomes fanboy.
Yeah, because Texas Tech, I see you there.
Yeah,
that's got to be tough. You're going against your guy, and that'd be like me betting against Rocky.
Yeah. Now, granted, I do love Joe Burrow, so it's kind of like there's at least that. Because how can you root against Joe Burrow?
Coolest dude
Joe
in the room.
Burrow, man.
Yeah.
Dude won me so many bets at LSU.
Well, yeah, he was. Yeah, that might be one of the best college football teams that we've ever seen and will
I
ever
was
see. But
I was talking on my gambling podcast with my co-host. And he was saying that same thing, but then he mentioned that LSU team was one of the best teams against the spread ever. And it's like it adds up because I'm pretty sure I won like 5 bets on them that year, and I wasn't even like tailing them that hard.
If I had to pick one team that's like my gambling like football wagon that like I just press send bet and the money came back every time. The first year Coastal Carolina decided they wanted to be a quality football program.
Yeah.
The first week of the season I took Kansas against them because I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? Beat the absolute piss out of Kansas. And then for the rest of the season, all the way through like the Mormons versus whatever game, like the BYU game, I took every game. I game of the year them against who the fuck was it? It was Louisiana Lafayette. This game got rain delayed and like pushed back because of a hurricane. And I'm like, look, I don't care. Like the bet still stands. They're gonna win. They won like as like plus 250. But yeah,
dude,
I can't win.
That BYU Coastal Carolina game. I remember watching that because I was like, I liked Zach Wilson quite a bit as the idea of like Bears don't have a pick till the second round. This guy might be there if he falls a little, and then he just started rising up draft boards after that. Yeah. But like,
and then he goes
that game. That game was a very familiar feeling for me of like watching this guy play and just being like, come on, he can do better than this. He can do better than this. Of just like, and that's the moment I knew I was out on him because it was like, I know this feeling.
Yeah, I think
it never gets better than this.
Jets fans would like a word with you, Q. But yeah, I think overall, like we said last week before we wrapped up, not a lot of good football this weekend, but you got 2 games, and I think that probably the 2 best teams as they showed trials and tribulations ahead of us in the final weekend. But looking forward to brighter days, maybe the Bears in the conference championship at a time sooner rather than later. But either way, like we always say, we'll be back with you guys next week to discuss more off-season news, probably talk a little bit about what's going on. Maybe we'll bring up some of the guys that will be playing this weekend that we're kind of keeping an eye on for free agents. But other than that, Q, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up the show?
Just Warren Sapp thinking the Bears are trading Justin Fields.
Oh, my God. Listen, all I'm going to say on Warren Sapp, great dude, gave me some fun memories as a funny guy on the football field growing up watching him, but he's got to check the people in his circle, man. Did you see what he was wearing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playoff game?
I did not.
I'll show you after the show. Somebody let him leave the house like this, and it's like, I think it was RG3 that tweeted, and he's like, man, I know Warren Sapp ain't got no friends because I know my friends wouldn't let me leave the house looking like this. Bro, he looked like he was out of a DMX video like 1997. If you have time, Google it right now because he had that shit on. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for the end of our season as a league because at the end of the day, we are, a football podcast. But I think we'll get a good conference championship weekend, a good Super Bowl, and then it's full head of steam into draft season, free agent season. Ryan Poles wakes up at 8 a.m. season, whatever you want to call it. We are.
Hey, congrats to a few former Bears out there, former and current Bears. First is Quentin Demps, only here for like a year, but named head football coach at Judson University. He can't be older than like 35 or something.
Listen, bro. That college is 10 minutes from where I grew up. They did not have a football team until like this year, last year.
Well, they got a former Bears started, so I'm good with it. Eddie Jackson winning the Bears Ed Block Courage Award. Congratulations to Eddie. And congratulations to our guy, Greg Stroman Jr., on getting a future contract from the Bears today.
I did see that, actually. I'm surprised I didn't bring that up at the top of the show. As I was very vocal on how, like, in the preseason, I'm like, look, dude, this guy can play. And then he got the pick? I think it was against Daniel Jones, I think.
We thought he was going to make the team out of camp, man.
No, yeah, I thought he was going to make the team. I'm glad that they're at least still kicking the tires on him. And hopefully we don't see a same or the same situation that we saw with Trey Roberson, right? Remember, they're like
Yeah.
so high on this guy and then just never gave him a chance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think all things considered, just don't read Warren Sapp's tweets. Don't go on to Commander Twitter because Deron Payne's not getting traded for Justin Fields, and yeah, just bunker down and get ready for one of the wildest off seasons that we have ever seen in our entire lives as Bears fans, and maybe we'll ever see.
It's gonna be wild. Get your rest before it starts.
Yes. All right. Well, you can follow Quinn at Butkus Stats. You can follow our main account at Bears on Tap, and then you can follow me at BDown300. We'll be back with you guys next weekend. Enjoy the rest of this NFL season and bear down.
Bear down.